Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sounds of Chaos podcast. My name's Steve.
Yes. My name's Donovan.
And today we bring you the first ever Sounds of Chaos podcast. If you don't count the intro we did last week. And we've got some guests on tonight, as we said we would. We're going to be talking music. We're going to get to know this band a little bit. Donovan, you know the band. If you want to give them a little bit of some kind of build-up, do you want me to do a drum roll?
Well, no. I thought this was interesting. This is what they class themselves as.
Okay.
A smorgasbord of sultry, swinging sounds layered onto a blues rock bedding.
Cool. That's a nice description.
Now, to be honest, this band, I've been following kind of band members of this band in different iterations of it. So they've kind of evolved from, it's got to be, they'll tell me, but it's got to be at least 15, 20 years in the making. I listening to them now, I hear lots of different influences from blues to kind of 80s rock, even through to new wave. That's what I hear. Very fresh, very multi-layered. So yeah, I'm just really looking forward to kind of really getting into it, getting into the history and getting into where their influences lie. So yeah, without further ado, I give you Left Hand Man.
Oh,
yes, it's working.
Hi guys.
Thanks for that intro, Don. That was great.
That sounded good. I'd like to hear that, man.
and
I
just
won't
like
move
that,
too much because I'll end up unplugging something and turning the whole thing off.
and just like that, these guys appear. So, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, good. Thanks
Good.
very much. Doing well.
You're in a nice looking little studio there. Is that your own studio, or is that somewhere you've hired for the evening, especially for us? Or
No, this is our own little place of work, creativity. Yeah, we've been running the studio for
20 years.
20 years, yeah.
20 years.
Yeah.
okay,
Also,
so you run a studio like commercially, or is it just your own spot?
Yeah,
where
commercially, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
we get a lot of bands coming through, a lot of singer-songwriters. I mean, I work in here full time, and so I'll help put the whole production around the artists.
Sweet.
And then I'll pull Nick in as well when I need a bit of expertise on the drums. And but yeah, so we've been doing that for 20 years, and it's good fun. And it's also here where we were able to record the Left Hand Man stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's always great to have your own space, isn't it? So like, it really helps. We were just talking a little bit off air now. Obviously, a lot of people making music now, like in their bedrooms, and obviously software has changed and things like that. But there's nothing better. I don't know if you guys agree, you probably do, but there's nothing better than actually being in a creative space, working with a group of people on a body of work.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this the old phrase, isn't it? The sum of the parts. You've got more people involved. Sometimes somebody will have an idea and they want to see that idea through in its entirety, but sometimes that idea changes so much from what the one person first thought, with the other people's contributions and input, and what you can come out with is like, wow, nobody expected, but it's just that much better.
It can elevate it, can't it? So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think from the other side, we were kind of speaking off air about from the other side, me coming in as at the time just a singer, I couldn't play an instrument to any great quality, as the lads will point out. Yeah, but just coming to a studio with an idea for some songs to make what was just going to be a very rough, stripped back demo. But then, as you say, getting involved in the creative process with professionals, and especially in this day and age, I think it is quite easy to do your own stuff at home, but to push that forward and be creative with people who've got expertise and bring the best out of not just the songs, but also that collaborative, as I say, idea of working together, which is great. So it's good fun.
The thing is, you've got to have a vision for the music, and I think when people come into the studio, I spend quite a lot of time, if I've not met them before, not worked with them before, just talking about music, just talking about their influences, where what are the things that spark their imagination. What is it? We'll listen to music, and I'll get them to talk about what it is, quite specifically, that they like about it. What are the influences that they want to have in their music? Just so that we can find that we're on the same wavelength. And I'll chuck out some ideas and some reference points as well that I think will be helpful to them. And I need to know that when I'm helping them create their piece of music, that I'm working, we're pulling in the same direction.
In tandem, yeah.
And also they need to gain confidence and trust in me, that I understand what they're trying to achieve, and so then I can advise them and help them get there and achieve that, and hopefully exceed their expectations along the way. And also I enjoy chucking in curveballs, so sometimes people have a sort of an idea of what they're after.
Set, yeah.
That's it, yeah. And then it's something, a different idea occurs to me, or I hear it in a different way. And say, okay, we could do that, but just what about this? Let's try this for a moment and see what you think. And sometimes it's a yes, sometimes it's a no. But
that's the beauty of collaborative working, isn't it? You can be so stuck in your own head with something, and then someone can just say a word or play a note, and you just breathe new life into it, and you're like, wow.
Definitely, yeah.
But anyway, before we go further on, let's do some introductions. Let's get back to Left Hand Man. That was great, by the way. But if you just do a bit of a round robin, who you are and who you are in the band and what you do.
Okay,
I'm anyone Nick. That might not know.
I'm Nick. I play drums.
I'm Mark, the singer.
And I'm Chris, and I play a bit of guitar, a bit of keyboards, and work on the production side.
Fantastic. And
there's Dave that's missing.
Dave's missing.
Gutted.
Yeah.
I'll Donovan as well.
And we've also got Frankie on bass.
Yes, Frankie from Argentina.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes.
Frankie from Argentina. That sounds like a song.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah. Frankie is a song. His whole life is a song.
Yeah, it is.
Brilliant. Okay.
With the so you mentioned earlier, Mark, is it? Yeah, in the middle. I'm trying to remember everybody's names here in the correct order. Mark, you said that you initially went into the studio and you just wanted to do some demos and stuff. So how did you end up becoming part of the band? How did that happen?
As I say, it was kind of, as Donovan knows, me and Dave, our old mate, we were in a band called Lazy J for years and years, and Nick and Chris produced our albums. We'd stopped doing it. And weirdly, I was kind of like, I'll never do anything like that. I was quite like, right, that's happened, that's done. But then after a few months, I think it was my wife actually started saying, you just don't see yourself. Because obviously from the age of 16, we've been rehearsing week in, week out, gigging. It was a major part of our life. To name drop you guys in your podcast when you're talking about giving up things that you enjoyed and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was one of the early ones.
Yeah, that really resonated in that kind of, it's not all about, fame, success. It's about doing stuff you enjoy. And then coming into the studio and working, that enjoyment definitely straight. It was like a light bulb going off again. And I never intended it to be anything other than just a few dreary, acoustic, self-indulgent songs. But Chris picked up a few ideas that he wanted to work on. And then he spoke to Nick. So for me, it was always, as long as people are enjoying it, then we'll go with it. And it's kind of grown from there, which has been great, And here we are 7 years later, 3 albums and just enjoying it, So, yeah, it's been great.
And that's the most important thing. And that's what I find. I've got this little thing. I told Donovan about this. You might have heard it if you listened to the podcast before, where I've started doing this thing with Spotify now, where I will just basically pick a genre and then just fly through it at random. And I'll just pick a totally artist, totally from scratch, go and see if they've got more than one track. And if they have, I'll go and listen to them all.
Yeah.
And doing that, I found so many great artists. Some of them probably only ever had like 100 streams, couple hundred streams. And there's just you don't, like you just said, you don't have to be a big artist to be creating great music. There's so much great music out there.
Definitely, yeah.
It's crazy when you really dive into the world of Spotify and all the different platforms available, because there's so much great stuff out there.
Yeah.
That no one would know. And that's kind of the point of this new podcast, so we can try and let people know
sharing ideas. And it's again, that's a big part of being in a band, talking about music that you enjoy and finding new artists. It's I suppose that if somebody had said to me 20 years ago that in your pocket you can get any song that you want,
man,
it would have blew our minds 20 years. You know what I mean?
It's bonkers.
Going price in Dudley and going through the kind of buying the CDs.
We've discussed this before.
I do miss that sometimes a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot to be said for that.
So we've discussed this before, where coming from, obviously, because of all of our sort of age bracket, we all remember going out and buying music. Whereas now they don't know any different. My little one's 6; she only knows Spotify. That's it. But as an artist, I do hear a lot of people say, oh, back to the good old days when people bought music, we can't make no money anymore. But unless you were signed to a major label, you weren't making any money anyway.
It was always about survival, wasn't it? So,
at least now you have this ability to reach thousands of people. Like, I find it weird when I go on Spotify and I see that somebody in Venezuela's been listening to my track.
Yeah, it's the best thing. It's like, how's that work? But yeah,
I find it bonkers. I still can't get my head around it. It's been around for ages now, and I still can't work it out. It feels weird still.
Yeah.
Who comes up with? Who's the instigator of the majority of the ideas on the album, or was it really a collaborative thing, or is there someone that lights the spark first?
The process has evolved. Having done 3 albums together, when it started, it was you coming along with your personal ideas, bouncing them off Chris then developing them, me coming in to do some drums, largely around some of the program stuff that Chris had done. But the second album moved on a bit from that with a bit more contribution from other guys, till the third album has been a radical change where we've all contributed various parts, and that's been a very different experience for us, hasn't it? Like this last album, you know, I got a catalogue of drum loops on my phone. If I was jamming away on the drums on my own, I'd stick my phone on the floor and I think, I don't want to forget that a groove that I was playing, something that I impressed myself with or whatever. I'd record it. And so I got a list of these grooves, you know. And so when it came time to start, then I sent these into Chris and said, right, here's something to base the next idea off. And that gave me a really strong buy-in to the album. You know, it wasn't just me coming in and going, oh, what we got, guys, let me just put some drums down on it. What do you think? It was from the start, I'd got a part in that, and we all did something like that. And that was very different, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that was a conscious decision as well to engage everybody. And again, that thing of collaborative, creative enjoyment, rather than just that kind of, oh, we're going to write. So it's like, what do we want to enjoy about, you know, how do we want to push each other in new ways? Because again, when you're doing something for ages, it's quite, I think we could quite easily turn up and write a song in a certain way. So it was interesting to go, let's try it differently. So we started sharing demos with each other. Well, not even demos, snippets.
12
then,
bars.
16
bars ideas.
But then COVID kicked in, so we started that process in January. And then in the March when COVID kicked in, we had to rely on this process, which was weird. So we had 3 months of sending each other ideas back and forth. But it was weird because you had no real feedback from each. It was just, I hope they like this. And he's sitting there going, And so that was difficult, but it brought forward a lot of ideas. So the process itself took just over 2 years. But it was really enjoyable because it was completely different to the way we've written before.
Good old COVID, eh? I don't think we've done any podcast that the C word hasn't come up.
Well,
absolutely.
Sorry to mention it early.
No, it's all good. But I think what you're talking about there, in my opinion, is it's a kind of organic evolution of what a band is and what a band should be. A lot of bands start off with, I'm a songwriter, here's my songs, I need to find some musicians to play along with me. What I think, in my opinion, should happen is that process of becoming an actual band where everyone is contributing. It's very rare to have a band where everyone's contributing from the first song. Isn't it?
It is.
In my opinion.
Very, very rare.
We're going through a similar thing now with our band. Obviously, you know, I've always been a solo artist. Well, I've played in bands before, but I've always been the songwriter. And then I met up with Emma, and then that's the first time I've ever written with anyone else. And then now, slowly now, the band has been together, you know, a little bit longer now. We're starting to introduce the band into, you know, coming up with creative parts themselves and putting their personality into it. I think you have to do that because otherwise, if you're one of the other band members that's not, you know, just turning up and learning something else that somebody else has written, you might as well go be playing in the covers band.
Do session,
100%,
or be a session musician. Like, you need to have some kind of input, I think, for it to feel like a band.
For sure.
And it's the energy that brings them when you play together, because there's buy-in and everybody believes in it. So you know, and you listen to some of the. I'm a big Elbow fan. You listen to that kind of brotherhood that they have, you know, and they came up with this thing of, they could easily play a certain style of music to please an audience, but what they found was that the key to them was playing something that they believed in. Once they did that, everything else clicked into place, because it was almost like, we don't mind being criticised. We enjoy what we're doing. Yeah, so I think we strive for that kind of thing, you know. But it is difficult, because, as you know, when you're being creative and artistic, it's difficult to take criticism at times, and you know. Definitely. Well, I think that's part of it, isn't it? You know,
once you look at them in the eyes, then.
Yeah.
Just turned and looked straight at it. He was like, eh. Right, guys.
Nick, there's a running joke, because Nick and Chris, who are the two most mild-mannered people I know, but get them together when they're mixing, and it's like fire and ice. They're always at each other. So it's like, but in a good way, in a kind of.
We have very different ways of approaching mixing.
Sure.
And
very diplomatic of you, Chris.
Yeah,
I've warned them not to argue on live.
That's why he's sitting in the middle.
No, do it.
In the middle,
we might raise the ratings, might go through the roof.
So to me, I have an idea of what I'm trying to create, where I'm trying to go, and therefore the problem solving is dictated by, you know, the direction of travel that I want to get to. Yeah. Whereas Nick just turns up, just twiddles the knobs. What are you trying to achieve? I've no idea. I've just seen what sounds good.
Yeah.
I've opened a can of worms here, as you can see.
See, I'm, you know, I mentioned off air, I produce. I'm airing that way towards Nick. I think I do have a tendency to I like to start with a blank canvas. And then a lot of the time when I start writing, I have no idea who I'm writing for or what I'm writing, because I do tend to write for. So I like to just start with anything and then just see where it goes. And I'll just twist faders, change fade. I don't generally ever have a clear mind. So I think I'm probably erring on Nick's side a little bit. Maybe I don't have the clear vision that you have.
I think you need both. I think
we've got to have both. We've got to have both. Yeah.
No, I think it definitely does. I think
it's Clapton versus Hendrix over again.
So do you always have to sit in the middle, Mark? Is that why you're there?
There's a lovely behind the camera. There's a lovely settee which I just lounge about on while they're arguing, giggling to myself.
So the thing is, I have to leave the room sometimes and leave Nick to it, because otherwise he's twiddling away. And how do you know if what you're doing is right or not if you've got no idea what it is you're trying to create? So I have to leave the room and wait until Nick's settled on something, and then I can enter, and then we can.
We said we wouldn't discuss this live on air. This is 20 years of angst.
This is cancelling. This is cancelling.
I get visions of Nick just locked in a room and then coming out like a mad scientist, all smoke. I have it.
It's alive. Yeah. One of the things I was going to ask actually is because when I I came into listening to your stuff completely blind. I played the first track and I had an artist come into my head straight away. I won't say who it is yet. Nope. Because obviously when there's multiple people in a band, and you said that you've written this one, you know, quite closely together, where do all the influences come from, and from which person ends up getting more of their influence in?
Steve, you're destroying all my questions, man.
Sorry, mate. Sorry. At least we're on the same page.
It's been asked. That's the main thing.
Would you? I think I'll come up with the airy fairy ideas. And kind of go, this. I know this, and I've got this idea for this. Chris gives me a blank stare. And then asks me to elaborate and talk about artists I like, and then Nick comes in and wants to know more. What would you say when you?
To be honest, my approach is the same when I'm playing, when I'm contributing to a track from the drums angle. I still go at it the same way. I very much go on what moves me, what am I hearing, or what do I feel I've got to do to this. And some of the time that's the right thing. Some of the times we discuss. And you know, Chris is like, try this,
not
try
wrong.
That. And sometimes, you know, we settle on, you know, something that you're thinking of. Sometimes what I'm doing is just
first one to draw blood.
Sort it out in the car park.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
I think it was interesting at the start when he spoke about the 80s sound, and I think coming from, because growing up in the 90s music was very much against 80s. So when I was a kid, it was like I'd never consider putting a synth in a song or anything like that because it was grunge.
Because the 80s was cheesy, it was rubbish. And
100%.
When you get older, you realise how amazing it was.
Exactly. So all of a sudden, Spotify comes along and you start listening to more of this music and go, what have I been doing? Not listening to this. So incorporate, we had a lot of conversations, didn't we, about that kind, and we're using synths and different sounds and things like that, that just out of the culture that I grew up in, being in bands in the 90s, it was quite nice for me to go, oh, we've got all these sounds now you can play with as well. So
what's quite interesting, what's happening in the music world right now, though, is I read a really interesting stat the other day that says that only, bearing in mind they make all the money, but 90, I think it was something crazy, like only 5% of all the music being listened to at the moment on Spotify is the music that's in the mainstream charts.
Yeah.
So people aren't listening to it anymore. Like my little one's 6 and she's obsessed with Stranger Things at the moment. So she's dived into the back catalogue of all these 80s songs.
Yeah.
And she's listening to them and loving it, walking around the house singing them. And she's not listening to the charts. It's crazy now because, I also think, and I've said this in a previous podcast, there's a level playing field now when it comes to age as well, because it used to be that if you hadn't made it by a particular age, say you're 20, unless you're 20 and dead good looking, that's it, you ain't making it. If you get past that age, you're done. Whereas now, with the internet and the way the internet, I think, is de-aging the population in terms of mentality, because like my nan, for example, will see everything the youngsters are doing. So when she hears of a term, it's not alien to her. She understands it and she knows what music we're listening to. So now it's almost leveled the playing field. And now you're hearing all these influences, and kids who might not necessarily have listened to your music 10, 20 years ago will today, because it's available. I find that really fascinating that kids are choosing actually to listen to older stuff. And more eclectic stuff than they are the pop stuff, which I find odd because that's what gets rammed down our throat.
Absolutely.
I think it's interesting because reading about the industry at the moment, there's lots of back catalogues of older artists being bought up because they know that they can market them in certain ways. And that's why I think it's important that the indie section kind of does stand up on online platforms as well, because, you know, how many times do you want to hear the Beatles and stuff like that? Nothing against the Beatles, but you still want that thing of being able to access new music as well. So it's great that people listen to old stuff. That's brilliant. But don't just go down that rabbit hole, you know, stay open to things and try and find new artists on there. But it's increasingly difficult to kind of promote yourself. I'm sure you find this, Steve, you know, because there's just lots of bands out there. So, you know, I think the more things like this that happen, the more communities that get together and speak about it. It's important for the independent sector to kind of stick up for itself online.
Well, in a few, I was about to say in a few episodes, hopefully, I'm going to have an industry specialist, PR and marketing person that's going to come on. They've said they'd like to be a guest, so we'll save that for another time. Sorry, Donovan, what was you going to say, mate?
No, I think the main takeaway from that is, I think we'll put that on the strap line, is Left Hand Man hate the Beatles. For That's the headline. Kidding, I'm kidding.
Do you remember me going at Paul McCartney in one of the first episodes we ever did?
I do, and you know what? I'm just going to stay quiet there, Steve, because I'm not going to do because I know it caused eruption. So
that was bold. That was bold.
It was bold.
It is what it is.
Yeah,
that's how I feel.
Exactly. Fair enough. Anyway, right. Okay. Question. Left Hand Man. Who came up with the name and why are you called Left Hand Man?
It's a really rubbish story.
Okay. Really next question.
No,
go on. I want to go on. Left Hand Man. It is an odd name. So go for it.
I'm a keen cyclist, and I was at a junction where I put my left hand out to turn. A driver ignored it. And I went, Left Hand Man.
You're kidding.
No, it's that sad. And then I ran it past a few, and I said, "Oh, that's cool." The one thing is, people always think, "Oh, that's me," and I'm like, "No, it's not. It's not a singular. It's like." So it's the worst story. I like that. I was like, "That's."
I like the name.
No, I think he just made that up on the spot.
Right? You just made my day.
You couldn't make
Mark,
it.
Never told us that ever. Mark, you just made my day. You said it was a boring story, and my God, you delivered.
Left Hand Man. Left Hand Man.
No, I love that. I love it. Is that really the case?
Honestly,
Because I thought there was some
I
kind
could
of.
even take Greens Forge Lane, the top of that. I'll
know
even tell you where it was. Yeah, so.
I thought there might be some
Well,
kind
it
of
should have been
symbolism
called
to do-
Green Forge Lane. Could have been that, couldn't it?
I'm in danger because I've questioned the Beatles and said I'm a cyclist. All into the hate mail could be.
Oh, that's it.
To be honestly though, I thought there might be some kind of symbolism to do with someone's right hand man or something like that. But the fact that it's just that, I think that's brilliant.
When I tried to justify it a little bit later, I was like, yeah, but it was literally that left hand man.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
That gets that one short.
You've made my night by telling me the story behind that.
I'm thinking of leaving the band now.
We've just had a breakup live on air. Right, I'm gonna throw a spanner in the works. We like doing this occasionally to artists because just because I heard so many different influences. So like literally within about the first 30 seconds of the first track that I opened, I forget the name of the track now, but I opened it. It was the first track I opened, and I instantly heard David Bowie.
Yeah.
Like that was immediate within the first, even the amount of reverb and stuff that was being used on the vocal, just get it that spacey kind of feel to it. That was my initial thought, and that was just on that opening track. But then as I listened on, it was just like, Jesus, okay, these guys listen to a lot of music because there's a lot of influences flying in from everywhere. So where do they come from? Is that more you, Chris? Is that your hand there with the production side, or is that from something you all discuss?
So one of the things that's peculiar about this band, in my experience, is we're all mates.
Of having a cyclist in it.
We're all mates, and really it's that holds us together rather than having a common musical.
Oh yes,
I mean,
it is definitely that.
Because yeah, we have quite contrasting taste in music, and there are some bands that some of us like that others really don't like. So it's funny because you'll then get influences filtering through that you might not like where it's come from, but
Oh, just 1 second, Nick. Just 1 second. We have an interruption here from a David Cottrell.
Oh, he's okay, you're right.
You've missed the bit where you were
Shall we introduce Dave?
He says
Dave's our guitar
he's a band member, isn't he?
You've all missed the bit. You've missed the bit where you were all influenced by me. Lol.
Lol.
That is what he's written here.
That's what it's saying.
Brilliant.
What have you got to say?
If he was here now, he'd just be, he's the major.
Would it be the David Cottrell show?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Is he lead guitar?
But he's not even here, and he's making it the Dave Cottrell show.
Exactly. He's found a way to ambush us. So
well done, Dave.
It's always best
Glad
not
you
to have a
can
lead
make it.
guitarist around.
Exactly. He's
Still
just
the
been
show.
noodling away for ages.
No, but seriously, sorry, Nick, I did interrupt you there to get that.
That's
But
all
so from the influences point of view, how do you cram all that in then? Because if you all like different bands, and someone doesn't like a
I think
particular
Chris was
sound.
explaining it, wasn't it?
Chris,
Chris. Chris, sorry, I don't know. I'm getting confused. It's because you're all wrong. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
I mean, at some point, I try and honor people's ideas as much as possible, but at some point, you do need to start to work out what is the identity of this track, where is it going, and I guess graciously the other guys,
let you do that.
Let me do it. Yeah,
it is true. No, it is true. Joking apart, somebody has to steer the ship.
Yeah.
And it cannot be a clear democracy. I mean, we get so many bands come in the studio, and at this level, it is a democracy. Everybody wants their part prominent. Everybody wants equal share of the sound. And you realise if you want to produce something of quality, somebody has got to run the show.
Structure, yeah.
And it's got to be that way. And we, Chris, we don't give it him. I mean, he's earned it, really. He is the man for the job. He's a producer, arranger extraordinaire. So that is his crown, really, and that's why it works so well.
Yeah, and if you know it works, if you know that works as a formula, the rest of the band, they hear the product of that.
Absolutely,
and why would you mess with it if it works?
It's true. So going back to your original question about influences and how much are we conscious of influences. I think probably only Chris would be overly concerned about that. I mean, I wouldn't be, you know.
Yeah,
we talk a lot about influences, don't we?
Yeah.
So it's interesting, the Bowie thing, because I wanted a long intro, sung like Station to Station, because I'd got into that kind of Bowie. I listened to Bowie backwards, weirdly. I really loved his last album, and then went back through his catalogue.
Not playing backwards.
I thought like one of them demon tape things.
No,
backwards, and it says something different.
Masking.
But yeah, I mean, obviously people know Bowie's, hits, but I really loved his last album. And how he wrote it and the process behind that, and then went back and you just find all this amazing stuff.
Yeah, that happens to be something that intrigued us all as well. So
Yeah,
we all tapped into
that one. Yeah.
So you all went back and had a listen to some of that stuff as well. So I'm glad I heard that then, because it was something that was of interest. What's the situation with the gigs at the moment then? Because you said earlier when we was off air, it's difficult gigging at the moment, venues and stuff like that. But are you actively out gigging? Do you do much in the way of live shows?
I think for us, it's never been so much about the gigging as we like the writing and the creative process. We've all been in bands for years and done lots of gigging and things like that.
So you try to be influencers instead, yeah?
Yeah, but when we've done an album, we do like to get it out there. But I found this is more difficult when you're older, because when you're 20, your mates will come and see you every weekend and whatnot. When you get to our age, people just don't. And we kind of went through a spell, didn't we, of local promoters, just like they've done for years, saying, can you play this gig? But when you're our age, turning up Friday at 5 o'clock in Birmingham to set up for, to play in front of a few people.
When there's like 3 or 4 bands on there.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I've done it for years, but at our it's more about the writing. And then if we can find a good gig, great. But it has been more noticeably difficult this time around, I think, because of COVID and being away from playing live so long to get anything sorted. The other thing is the Albion's got the album, not the Albion. No. Go there.
Just shut you. I've got a big off button here. I can turn you straight off.
No swearing on this
because this album's such a studio album. Like, to play it live, like we have played a gig, haven't we? We used backing tracks and it was great.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah,
when you play something that you've
different
put
energy,
so much into,
a life of its own, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The other weird thing. This is taking a slightly different tangent, but because of the way that we'd put the album together, we were coming and preparing for a gig with a bunch of songs that we'd never played before. We'd never actually been in the same room
and attempted
to play them.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, it must be really weird, actually. Yeah,
it was
strange.
Yeah.
It was fun, though. It was good. It was fine. Yeah,
it was good. I mean, I have to say, my feeling about gigging now, I am more excited to gig this album than any of what we've done before. Yeah. I really am.
Going to get all emotional again.
I am. Yeah. Honestly, it was a real moment.
Yeah, I think we put a lot into this album, so yeah.
You want people to hear it, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because so we put heart and soul into this.
We will make sure. We will make sure, of course, that we put links to everything in the description boxes everywhere. So, make sure we've got all of those by the end of this, and we'll put it out everywhere. So you guys, anyone that listens to it, you'll be able to find it somewhere. Whether it's on Facebook, it'll be up there. If it's on YouTube, it'll be down there. So go and have a look. Sorry, what was you going to say, mate?
I was just going to say, we would like to do more gigs. So if anybody out there has got any suggestions or runs a venue or whatever, then please get in touch.
How do you feel about, obviously, because of COVID, it has kind of changed the gigging landscape quite a bit. I do some live streaming work, and we did a pay-per-view show for a young rapper who he had quite a reasonable size following, and he sold, because Facebook now, you can do Facebook events, and you can actually sell pay-per-view through your Facebook page now, which is pretty cool. And not a lot of people know you can do that, but you can. So I'm letting all you artists know now that you can do it, because it's a potential way of making a little bit of money from doing a show. And he did an album launch, and he did a small room. He got 20 of his closest friends in the room to create a little bit of an atmosphere. It was only a big rehearsal room, but he had a big following online. He sold tickets for £3. That was all. $2.99 he sold his tickets for, and he sold them to 15,000 people.
What? Really?
What?
Yeah.
We've missed this opportunity, lads.
And you
They're listening now.
Yeah,
you keep 80% of all the revenue as well.
Yeah, you do.
Our Facebook take obviously a chunk for the the streaming and the administration admin. But the so is no, obviously now you know about it.
It's
Is that
amazing.
something you would consider doing? Maybe an album
so, yeah.
playback,
Yeah,
strip it back in the
definitely.
studio. You got a studio there, you could easily do it, I'm sure.
And again, I think this is why things like this are important, so bands find out about and share these ideas.
Well, this is the whole point of the Khaos. Yeah.
You know, it's something we could probably easily set up. We just never thought of it.
It's brilliant. I mean, we're doing it with my band. We've got like but we're working on an album right now. We've got an EP already to come out, so we'll have an EP and then an album.
Yeah.
One of the it's just some marketing, because that's my background. But a little idea we've had with a few people, for example, is you've got your current album, you make an additional 5 songs that you make only available for purchase. So like they buy you can listen to 7 or 8 songs from the album, but if you want to listen to the full rest of it because you're a hardcore fan, you go over to the Patreon page, you pay a couple of quid and then you get access to it. We're finding that with the artists that we're working with, you'll be amazed at how we trialed Bandcamp. You heard of Bandcamp?
Yeah, we use Bandcamp.
Yeah. So we trialed that for a little bit, and we literally I put out a few songs, and I thought, well, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to put these on Spotify. They're not going on there. If you want this song, these 4 songs, it was an EP, a very small EP. You can go and get them, but you got to pay for them.
Yeah.
And I put them out, and I set the price at £0. So the idea is you can have it for free, or you can pay whatever you want.
Yeah.
I had people paying £5, £7, £10, £12. I had one person give me 15.
Wow.
And I was like, so there are people out there that want to support bands. So I think it's important that we try and utilize all avenues, because I think you'd be pleasantly surprised, even if it helps with the running cost of your studio or marketing the next song on Facebook ads or whatever it is you want to do. There's so much stuff you can do. And when I get this guest on in a few weeks' time, when he starts talking to you about the marketing ideas he's got, because he's been talking to me off air.
Yeah.
Wow, he's got some really cool ideas. So look out for that.
I'd say that's the future. Yeah. That's the future. It really is.
It is. I think it's value, isn't it? So I think the one criticism of, say, your Spotify's of this world is the value that people put into the art form.
Yeah.
So I think one of the downsides of how we live these days is it's a little bit throwaway. It's a little bit kind of taking and you throw it away. You don't actually keep anything.
Yeah.
It's not physical, so it's always kind of moving. But I guess the good side of that, I think Radiohead did it first when they brought out, I think it was in Rainbows, where they brought it out and said, pay what you think it's worth.
Yeah.
And
it's such a brilliant model.
Everyone, this came out in 2007, I think it is, and they were mocked. They were really badly mocked for doing this, either for being arrogant or for being, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot, you're not going to make any money. It became, I think it was it's still their kind of 3rd best-selling album, and they've been around for 30 odd years. So that, it doesn't surprise me what you said, Steve, about pay for what you think it's worth.
It's brilliant. Do you know who started that actually? It was a cycling company.
Hey, all the best ideas.
It was a guy who created a particular type of bike in the Netherlands, because obviously they like to cycle. And he got this bike. It was brilliant. It was really well made. He'd managed to make it really affordable, really lightweight, really compact, and the bike would fold away and stuff. But he hadn't got a clue what to charge for it and couldn't really gauge it against the rest of the market. So he put his first 100 sort of models up and just went, pay what you want. Now, he was hoping for about 300 euros or dollars or pounds or whatever it was at the time per bike. And he was getting a lot more. People were paying, some people paid a bit less, but some people paid a lot more. So the idea was pay what you think it's worth. And it's funny how people value things like, and how much they will pay for something if they think it's worth it. It's really odd business model, but it does seem to work in a lot of industries. There's more companies doing it now than you might think. And I think the music world should probably try and adopt that, because if someone wants your music for free, they're going to get it for free anyway off Spotify, or they're going to rip it off YouTube, or they're going to do something. So give them the option to have it for free, but give them the option to pay for it as well. And I think you'll be surprised.
It's fascinating. Yeah.
I think there is something in there. Some people do want to help you to continue to make the music that they're enjoying.
Yeah.
You know.
I think there's a lot to learn from the YouTubers of the world, because you see the YouTubers were the first to start using things like Patreon, and then you're thinking, who's paying a $5 a month when Netflix is only £7? Who's paying a $5 a month to watch Kevin and his yachting videos?
They are pretty good, to be fair.
But people do, and I think if someone's really invested and really a big fan and they want to support you, you don't even need a particularly big fan base either to do it, which is what I found really interesting.
And I think the reality is there's a lot of people out there. It's not just this little small world. There is a lot of people on the internet.
Really?
What? Yeah.
I mean, but that's why this can work, because
I know what you mean. Yeah.
There is always. Did it sound that stupid?
No.
It's like you just discovered the internet today.
No drummer jokes.
Come on, Dad.
Just from the point of view that there is people of all persuasions and tastes.
Yes,
there's that many people that even if you're really niche, niche, there's a lot of people who are in that niche. Yeah. And if they find you and connect,
it's just learning how to market it. We had one of the things really cool. We was on this is what I was talking to someone about the other day. There was on about TikTok and all these new platforms. And I said, you do realize that they said, oh, we've stopped posting on Facebook and YouTube. Everything's on TikTok. Well, I'm like, TikTok's got 500 million users. Between YouTube and Facebook, there's 5 billion people or active users.
Wow.
5 billion.
That's the thing. You go about age ranges again. So I only do TikTok. because the whole world is under 25. No, we're still here.
Yeah.
We're still on Facebook. And
this podcast is going out to 4.7 billion active users.
Wow.
So you know what I mean? Like when you think about it, there has to be a niche. There has to be a market for every type of, whether it's music, podcast, whatever it might be. There's an audience for it. You've just got to go find.
It's finding that audience, isn't it?
Yeah. But no.
Okay,
So
I wanted just quickly, just going back to the influences thing.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you all had quite disparate tastes and influences, and sometimes they can work with your sound. Is there any cast iron shared influences that you all share? Is there one or two that
I think going back to that,
you all love
that initial the smorgasbord of that kind of blues rock, I'd say, was something that we all the old Led Zeppelin kind of.
That's it.
Myself and Dave, our guitar player, he'll text in a moment if I name check him again. But we were brought up in that kind of guitar driven. I think we all shared that.
I think you can boil it down to some of that.
And then everything else goes off in all sorts of different other places.
Does,
I think that
in that pot, that Venn diagram.
The blues rock will be straight in the middle there.
Blues
and
rock
we venture off.
Good choice. Right, I'm going to throw a proper curveball in the mix. You ready for this?
Yeah,
another one.
Right, because Mark's such an avid follower of the original podcast.
Oh, it's going to check me in.
You ready?
Oh yeah, are we going to do it? All right,
I'm gonna do this. Favorite intro to a song.
I answered this, and it was Stevie Wonder. What's that song called? I did it on the Facebook.
Sir Jude.
Yeah, Sir Jude. Okay.
And also, I think my original, going back when I did say it, was also, and I love this, Diana Ross. What's the Diana Ross song? I love the intro with the drum backbeat.
It sounds like me now with the names of the songs.
It's not the studio right in session then. Chris is looking at me blankly. Nick Donna. I'm coming out.
Nick knows, but he's not going to help you.
I'm coming. Yeah.
Okay. Chris and Nick, same question to you too.
Favorite intro.
Okay. I mean, this is going to date me and tell you why we have.
Well, you just discovered the internet today, so I think that's
Is there a box somewhere with the internet in it? Okay, I've got to go to a Rush song, "Spirit of Radio."
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that because of the drums at the beginning?
It's a guitar intro.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because there's a famous Rush intro in there. I forget it.
Well, there's
Nick Beato was talking about it not long ago on
there's
YouTube.
Tom Sawyer, which starts with drums.
Yes.
It's a straightish groove, but it's
Yeah,
drum based. But
yeah,
it's Neil Peart, isn't it? Is it Neil Peart?
It's Neil Peart. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. But that for me, that my formative years, you know, that music was very influential on me.
Sure.
And so that stays with me. I remember being in secondary school. My mate comes in lunchtime, opens his Adidas bag. He's got a piano-style cassette player in there with the buttons on the one end. And he says, I've listened to this. And he plays me this first track off this Rush album.
Life changed.
Life changed there that day.
Yeah,
you mean
that's
he didn't?
Music, man.
You mean he didn't just click share?
Yes, that's it. The share was, can I borrow your cassette?
Yeah.
God, that's mad. Isn't it mad to think that's how we used to like do music? It's like you used to have to borrow someone's cassette and then record it and then stuff like that. That's mental. Go on then, same question, Chris. What about you?
I do hate these sorts of questions because I can never think quickly enough. But I suppose thinking about formative periods, I suppose the intro of "Killing in the Name of," Rage Against the Machine, that kind of just the kind of that full throttle, angst, and then.
Which we've done a version of.
We have done a version of that, yeah.
Really?
So now we're getting an idea of the different differences between all the band members now, because you've all gone for totally different songs there, haven't you?
Yeah. You see the trouble we have.
No, that's interesting. That's interesting. I was going to throw the movie intro music to him, but we'll let him off with that one. I won't.
Got to be Terminator 2 for me.
Oh, okay. He's going straight in.
Sorry.
That's okay.
The Sound of Music.
Toy Story.
Hey, while we're on the subject of film, because we like film here on the podcast as well. When you mix music and film together, there's been a lot of these sort of documentary or biopics lately. Like you got the Freddie Mercury Queen one, you got the Rocket Man out. Has anyone seen the Elvis one?
Not yet. No. Is it good?
Not yet.
I was hoping you were all seen it. We could have talked about it for 5 minutes. I'm not a big Elvis fan. I can't say I really like listen to a lot of his music and stuff. I'm trying to copy his hairstyle right now by the looks of my camera. But he, that is one of the best uses of modern and old, because they use stuck a lot of modern music in there as well, but using Elvis songs. Brilliant. If you like your music and you like a good story, Days of film to check out, man. It's so good.
I'm definitely gonna be watching it because it's Baz Luhrmann. It doesn't surprise me when you say Baz Luhrmann. He's always used very kind of fast jump cuts. Even back to the kind of Romeo and Juliet days, it was he put out Romeo and Juliet with the original language, but in a kind of modern setting. They're always very kind of camp and very kind of overly lavish, and I think
the camera transitions
to put behind there.
The camera transitions were epic in that film. So good. Right.
He's known for it.
Right. We're coming up to nearly 50 minutes. We need to let people know where they can find you. So where obviously I take it you're on Facebook, YouTube.
Yeah, we've got all the normal.
Where
Facebook,
else are you?
YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and then the albums are on the normal Spotify,
Amazon,
Apple Music, Amazon,
Bandcamp.
Yeah, all the usual places really.
And the album is called
Mission Transmission.
With this little dude, if you just bear with me 1 second, we can just we can have a little listen to their intro again. 1 sec, here we go. Now, I've got a question.
Yeah.
Was that green screened or did you really go to the moon?
Well,
we can't say it.
That's what we spent all our money on. So
crowdfunding.
It's quite actually going back to the Chaos Corner concept. It was something, not to blow smoke up your two backsides, but again, going back to that thing of local artists getting together. So when we did the album, I know a friend called Darren Goldie, who is a great artist. So I just sent it over to him, the album, and said, "What do you think? Can you come up with some some artwork, and he came up with all the space influence, because from what he heard, he just said, I think it's saying, again, he picked up the kind of 80s retro feel, but from some of the lyrics and whatnot, he just had this, and he came up with lots of space imagery, didn't he? So that was that collaborative working with other people and people that, you know, to go, well, because invariably I can't do stuff like that. So me trying to say, well, I want this, is the idea ain't going to be any good. So
the vision isn't there because it's a different craft, isn't it?
Yeah, and
absolutely,
it was great putting it across to somebody from a different style of art, you know, and the ideas that he came up with and the way that he interpreted the music. That was another really nice thing of the album, having that kind of collaboration there as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And then on the back of that, we kind of had something we changed the name of the album based on what he did, Two Mission Transmission.
Oh, did you really? That's interesting.
Yeah, as I say, and again, it's that knock-on effect of sharing ideas with people and getting feedback. I say that might be one thing that would be interesting to do, get more feedback at the demo stage from wider, because demos tend to be very in-house. But it might be interesting, or it might be opening up Pandora's box. You never know.
I'll tell you what I'll do for you. I'll send you a link later. I have I'm on a producer forum.
Yeah.
And whenever I put a track together that I'm either going to pitch to another artist, I'll put the song together, I'll put the lyrics down and all the rest of it, and then I'll pitch it. But before I pitch it, I go to this producer forum first, and I always stick it in there, and then people just jump in. And it's always proper critique. It's never like it's not like Facebook where people just go, oh, it's crap.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. They actually like critique it, and sometimes they'll even, if you use the same system as them, they'll even say like Logic or Studio One or something like that. They'll open up your project and they can even add little bits and throw ideas off each of it. It's really cool for them. I've only just joined it a few months ago and I love it. It's really good. I've had some great ideas put to me by other producers. That I had a guy, I did a track the other day, and he said, I can hear some Spanish guitar. And I'm like, well, I can't play Spanish guitar, that kind of. And he says, let me do something. He says, send me the track over. He opened up the project. We were talking to each other live like this. Yeah. And he's got the project open at the same time as me. It's such a mad thing to be able to do. And then he's just tracking Spanish guitar. He hits render. And then within about 20 seconds, what he's done is now on my computer.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's mental.
And that's the beauty. And it gives ideas then, doesn't it? It's like that. As I say, I think I'm quite good at coming up with ideas. Whether them ideas are very good or not, that's beside the point. But it starts that back and forth.
It's people that don't know you as well, which is what's really cool about that. Because like you'll hear, they'll hear, like you said earlier, they'll hear something different.
Yeah, it's the other thing. Again, from me, from the other side to you guys, is being an artist and writing songs. I never understood what a demo was. I used to think you went into the studio and you recorded a song that you'd written, and the producer's job was to record that and then it was like, well, no, a demo is a movable thing. And I mean, we had one song we called Trigger's Broom because it changed literally. Every part of it changed. I think it was Dave that said that. He said that's Trigger's Broom. But yeah, young artists understanding that you know, it's great to have an idea, but let other people get involved in it and shake it. And
sometimes as well, it's not until you've actually had a go at recording it that you actually learn about what it actually is in the first place. What is it that makes it tick? Where is the energy? Where is the vibe?
Yeah. And a lot of the time when I'm doing that, that's at the point sometimes where the track gets thrown away.
Right.
Because I've always had this discussion. I've got a friend who literally, I'm like, how many songs do you write before you get to the one you want to? And he's like, just everything I write, I release. I'm like,
you know,
really? I'm like, I must write about 90 songs, and then I'll think, that one ain't for me. I'll give it to someone else, or that one's just crap. I'll throw that one away, and then I could never do that. Just write a song and then release it. And I think I'm probably too judgmental on the.
That was like this album. We came up with about 20 demos, didn't we, for the first time ever? And we said, right, we're just going to pick. We're going to work down. And you know, originally you get excited about a demo, and I've read about more and more bands doing that. You know, I think the Chili Peppers said they recorded 90 songs for their new album and then reduced down from there. You know, so I think that's where a lot of people do get ideas in and reduce down rather than, as you say, because it is so easy to publish stuff in this day and age. You know, you could just I'll publish, but you know, when you write something, you feel great about it. It's only a little bit of time later when you go, actually, that ain't.
The dust settles.
That ain't kind of what
I was listening to. Chris Martin talking about his songwriting the other day, and he was saying all the big songs, the majority of the big songs that he's written are 10-minuters.
Yes,
put something together in 10 minutes. He says, but all the other loads of songs that he slaves over for weeks, months, or longer are the reason that every now and then there's a 10-minuter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, he puts the work in. And then it comes out somewhere, even if it's not in that one where you're slaving away.
Yeah.
It's like exercise, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of like exercise.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So what's next? What's the plan for this album? Where are we going with it from here?
I think that, I mean, it's interesting what you said tonight about going on live and playing that.
Maybe someone should organise a live show where people can come on it and perform live to an audience.
That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah. We are awful at self-promotion. Absolutely rubbish at it.
If only we knew somebody that was good at
the studio and all the kits and stuff. Yeah, I know. I can't think of anyone at the moment. But
Every time I try and do anything like that, everything breaks.
That's only because I turn up.
Yeah, it is when you turn up. It is. Oh no, we won't go there. Don't talk about that.
I think short term, we want a gig, don't we? We want to play a few times.
So one of the guys said, "So I've got some ideas. Let's start working on the next album." It's like, well, that's great. The creative juices are flowing again. But the thing is, we've got something here that we think is worthy of an audience. We've got to
definitely
invest in that. The music that we've got.
Yeah, at least for a bit.
I'll talk to one of you off air, just on the marketing side. We'll have a little chat about that afterwards, because I probably can help you somewhere. And that's again, the whole point in this is for us as well. We want to. This is almost like a networking thing for us, where we can sort of get to know other people, collaborate with other people, do bits. Donovan's you're right as well, Donovan. I've been trying to get Donovan in the studio for God knows how long now. He's like, he wrote one song, we did it together. We did it. We recorded a track, and then he's gone on with him.
I've seen a few Donovan do a few gigs over the years back in Wolverhampton back in the day. No, there's good stuff. It's good.
He's good. He's good. We've got to get him. We've got to get him out there. We'll get it. We'll get something done at some point for sure. Right, we're coming up to the hour mark.
Anything really quickly? What do you think?
It has got.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed that.
Fantastic.
And I love podcasts. So to be on one, I'm like, yeah, this is absolutely brilliant. It's a running joke because I usually walk out. I've heard this podcast about so and so.
I love my wife's sister. She's like, oh, shut up about your podcast. Will you turn up? I'm trying to sleep.
Yeah, that's all I think.
It's 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, turn it off.
I think that's pretty much probably 90% of my consumption now is podcasts of some description. Yeah,
that and YouTube tutorials. Conversations more with. I've just heard this podcast, and I can see people start to roll their eyes now. Here he goes again. Him and his podcast. Yeah. But no, I love them.
Podcast listeners are the new vegans.
Exactly. Yeah.
Controversial.
I'm a vegetarian. I shouldn't say that as well now.
For God's sake.
Mark's character assassinated himself on this podcast.
In one podcast, he's a cyclist who hates the Beatles and he's vegetarian.
I never said I hate the Beatles. I just
no.
I hate the Beatles.
How does anyone like him at all? Well. So, guys, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on. We will get you in the studio one day to come and do a live show with us when we start doing those. That won't be too far down the road.
We'd love that.
Our studio is now ready to do that. So we will definitely be organising it. It might be a bit more of a stripped back version, maybe, potentially, just because of the size and logistics of it all. But yeah, great to get you on and have a listen. Guys, I've listened to this stuff. Again, this is one of the things I love about doing this stuff is it's not something that I would have gone running to find that kind of music. But once I listened to it and I was kind of actively listening to what was going on, all the different parts, the producer side of my brain started kicking in. I was like, oh, I like that. And I love this little bit here. And I really appreciated the amount of work that went into that. You could really tell there was a lot gone into it. And look, from what you guys have just said, like the enjoyment you clearly had on this particular record definitely shines through on it. So it's really good.
It's a musician's album, you can tell.
Yes, 100%. Those are the right words.
Interesting.
Those are the right words. But yeah, guys, thank you for coming on. We've really enjoyed this.
It's been a pleasure.
Donovan, you're going to stay on air just for 2 seconds while we wrap this up. But guys, thank you. I feel like we need to do
Good luck with the.
I need to get some sound effects.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we need like a round of applause thing.
I need some sound effects, some like little round of applause thing going on. But yeah, we'll make sure all the links are in the description, so that you guys can go and find Left Hand Man, all their socials, go and stream their song, it's like you say, it's free. It does help. The more of you that like and comment on these videos and on their tracks. It really does help push it out to more people. That's kind of how it works. So if you like one of their posts or videos or tracks, more and more people will see as a result of you doing that. So thank you very much, guys. If you hang on there just for a second, I'll have a quick 2 minutes with you at the end, but thank you very much.
All right.
Cheers, guys.
Okay, then.
So there you go. That's the first episode of the Sounds of Chaos podcast.
I really enjoyed that. I think it was awesome.
And
yourself?
That hour's gone real fast, though.
It went so fast. I can't believe it.
I'm trying to keep it to an hour. I was watching the clock. I was like, because before we could go on for hours, couldn't we?
Well, I was really disappointed because we were really getting into it, and I saw it was like 45 minutes. I was like, how is it 45 minutes already?
Well, maybe we'll have to have them back on again when we get them on to do the a live show, because I really would like to do that, because I think it'd be cool. When we do that, obviously we'll have another chat with them when we're there. But guys, thank you for tuning in, those that you have, and those that are going to watch this later on. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We're going to have loads of different artists from hundreds of different genres, industry professionals. It's going to be awesome.
Worldwide.
So make boats no. Worldwide prestige. Right, we're going to go. Catch you later.
Peace.